Religion has many victims, and these are the stories of how they survived. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Awakening. I'm your host, Heather,
And I'm your co-host, Tamara, or AKA Jezebel.
and we are so excited to be back with you again this week. I think I say that every week when we open the show, but this show is just so incredible for us. We love having the opportunity every week to get to sit down with all of you and hear your stories. They are so impactful and meaningful to so many people that are just now starting their deconstruction journey. What do you think, T?
I couldn't agree more. Everybody's story is different. Everybody's journey is different. And the fact that you come here and trust us with your story just makes it all the more important to us. So thank you, Courtney.
Yeah,
You're
it means
welcome.
the world to us that you guys are willing to come and sit down with us because we know the courage and bravery that it takes to be able to share these things. So today we have a really incredible guest named Courtney with us today. So let's welcome her into the show. Welcome in, Courtney. It's so good to have you here today.
Thank you.
Welcome,
I'm so
Courtney.
grateful to be here.
It feels like forever and ever and ever.
I know.
And T and I have known Courtney for quite a while now. We have been supporting her on her sobriety journey over the past year, and we are so damn proud of her because we know that that is not an easy journey to walk. So you are such an incredible soul. So I am damn proud of you. I just want you to know that.
Thank you so
And
much.
and I
And
have to say this as well. Courtney reached out to me on TikTok. Do you remember Courtney? And one of the first people I reached out to was Heather and said, this beautiful girl woman just reached out to me
Yep.
and she needs support and friends. And that is how we started to be friends and be connected. So welcome, Courtney, and much love. And I'm so proud of you.
I'm just so grateful to be here with y'all. Y'all have been two of my biggest inspirations and two of my best friends for the past couple years. And I'm glad to be a part of this with y'all today.
That's awesome. Okay, we're going to rip the Band-Aid off. So, Courtney, when you think about the faith space that you grew up in, how would you describe the overall atmosphere?
Um, Mine was a little complicated. The first several years of my upbringing, we were kind of your stereotypical Catholic, where we party all weekend and go to mass on Sunday morning, And then my mom went into more Pentecostal circles, like Assemblies of God, Church of God, that sort of thing. And it was such a dramatic, sudden culture shock.
Oh, I'm sure going from Catholicism to that type of Christianity was probably so shocking.
It
Because I remember
was.
as a kid, I was grew up on the other side. So I was grew up in a Church of God church. And I remember there was a girl I went to high school with, and she was a Catholic. And I went to church with her one Sunday, and that was the strangest experience I ever had in a church because I'd never been to Catholic Mass before. I had no idea. All the standing, the sitting, the praying. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, it's going from one extreme to the other. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Especially if you're in a Pentecostal church where they fall out, speak in tongues, roll all over the ground, run around the church.
Exactly.
it,
You're
it
kind of
was
like,
it was definitely that. I could whip out my tambourine today, y'all. Like,
I could beat a tambourine like it was nobody's business. I promised you.
yeah,
and the other thing was is if you didn't beat that tambourine to where you had blisters on your hand by the time worship service was done, you were not praising God in the right way.
Yep, you weren't praising hard enough. You weren't doing it good enough. You weren't putting enough into it.
What helped you feel like you belonged there at that time?
um, through music. I've always been well, I was, and that's how I connected was through the music aspect of it. Because that was one thing, that regardless of the denomination, there was always music to connect to.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
Right.
they always seem to use, different things to draw us in, right? Because there are musicians that are drawn to these spaces because of the music. They steal people's writers that are drawn to this space. Like, I swear the church like sucks from the arts. They really do. It's like, oh, you're an artist? What can we do for God with your art? You know?
It really does. And it's almost in a, well, if you're using it for any kind of secular purpose or just for pure enjoyment, that was, considered to be not okay. We
Yeah.
if we had a particular gift, it had to be used for the church and for no other purpose. And it kind of took my greatest joy into something that I felt uncomfortable even doing at times because I felt selfish
Yeah.
for enjoying, because I'm a painter, I draw,
Yeah.
and I felt like if I wasn't using that for the church, I
Or
was,
for God.
or
Yes.
for God, I
Because
was,
I was taught that we would be wasting our talents if we didn't use our gifts for God, for the furthering of the kingdom, in some way. So I always felt that whatever gifts I had, like I love to crochet, I love to write, but all of those things, I felt like I had to do all of those things for God. So if I was crocheting something, it had to be a gift for somebody at the church that was getting ready to have a baby, I couldn't just make something because I wanted to make it. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And I think that
yes,
puts a lot of burden and stress upon you because you don't even get to enjoy your own gifts and talents that you have because you feel obligated to use them for this God, in
Mhm.
some way whatsoever. And that's not cool, like it
And
just
I
adds
don't
to the stress of it all.
and I don't know about you guys, but our pastor would preach, "Don't cast your pearls before a swine."
Yes.
yes,
He quoted that scripture to men that were in their own business, to the women who did things, within the church, that it was like it had to be within the church house. Otherwise, the world was looked at as the pig pen and the swine, and you're casting your pearls out there and they're not going to be appreciated. And I just remember, people who could sing or play the piano or play the saxophone, it was mandatory that they did this for God and God alone.
Yep.
yeah.
Hmm.
I was in a lot of choirs
Yeah.
and I taught Sunday school and I did just the whole nine.
Yeah. We did. I always tell there ain't many jobs in the church that me and my husband didn't do when we were part of it. We both preached. He sung worship for a time at a church. I did backup vocals. We taught children's church. We drove the people to the church van to go see Sid Roth in Charlotte. Like
The
all the
bus
things.
ministry.
Yeah, like everything that you could think that you could do in a church, we just about did it all, And but none of that helped us. None of that made us better people. It didn't make us better neighbors to the people that we were in community with. And
Mhm.
I think about that often. So I got to ask you, what are some of the messages that you heard about yourself during that time that stayed with you for a long time after?
The one that hit me hardest was I as a child I was a victim of SA, and then after that happened, then I learned that I was a dirty rotten sinner.
Oh, man.
And so by the time I was 8, 9 years old, I already thought I'd never get a good husband because I was tainted, that God thought I should be stoned for being a victim. Like it was just crushing that I would never be good enough as a woman
Yeah.
because of what happened to me before I even knew any better. And that kind of drove my entire spiritual journey, was just that, just being unworthy
Yeah.
was the thing that just, where, you're supposed to have support and be able to heal
Yeah.
through times when, you're harmed by someone or something like that. No, it was the opposite. It was, I just never ever felt good enough for the kingdom.
Can I just point out to our listeners listening, she was 8. She was 8 or 9 years old when that message resonated with her that she was not good anymore. That just,
And you got to think at that age, those are such a formative and developmental years for a child. So to
right.
carry the weight of not being good enough with you for years is so psychologically damaging. And that shame is something that we talk about every single week, just about on this show, because it's the thing that people feel the most. And I
Mhm.
was just like you because I was SA'd at 8 years old, didn't know what had happened to me. I didn't even know what had happened to me until I was 12, and my mom sat me down to have that conversation about the birds and the bees. And just like you, I felt nothing but shame. Like I was worthless. Because up until that point, all the messaging I had received from the church is that my purity was the most valuable gift I had to offer. And when that was gone, I was worthless. I was like a piece of chewed up gum, right? So when my mom told me that at 12, I was devastated. And I'm still just a 12-year-old little girl thinking that I am absolutely worthless, that nobody's ever going to want me, nobody's ever going to marry me someday. And that conversation actually did come up later on when I got engaged. My brother came to me and literally told me that I had to go tell my fiance what had happened to me when I was 8, just in case he didn't want to marry me, because he was raised in a Christian home too. And that this is what we were taught. And those messages are so damaging to young, developing minds.
And we're also taught not to tell.
Yep.
Like I wasn't taught that it was wrong. I was taught that there's some things within the family that become the family secret, and you just don't ever say anything. So
Yeah.
I always walked around thinking that this is what happened to every girl in the church.
Yep.
I had no idea that it was illegal and wrong. Courtney,
Yep.
I just sat there thinking, well, I guess everybody gets married this way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whew, that's, and you know what? For the sake of those who didn't hold space for you back then, Courtney, I'm going to let you know I'm sorry and
Yeah.
you are worthy.
Absolutely.
You are accepted. You are beautiful. You are worthy just as you are.
Absolutely.
How did the environment back then or now, how do you remember that it talked about your person as value?
I felt there was a saying I heard a lot, growing up in the 80s and 90s, and self-esteem and mental health was finally starting to be talked about during this time. And for me, I wasn't allowed to have self-esteem. It's only God esteem.
Ooh.
We are
Yes.
disgusting. We are gross. We are sinners. We are undeserving. The only thing good in us is
God. Yep.
God.
Yeah.
And that was just a recurring nothing I did. So what started as just being a little girl trying to find her soulmate turned into nothing I ever did would ever be good enough, no matter
Mm.
how hard I tried.
Yep.
Hmm.
And I kept hearing, well, just give it all. I do every single day. I give it all every single
Yep.
day, and it's just not enough.
Yes. I always like to say I gave everything of myself until there was nothing left because it literally broke my mind. I gave everything I could possibly ever give to this religion, and all it did was take and take and take from me. It never helped me. It never healed me. It never made me a it just broke me. So, when did you get to the point where you began to notice that these messages that they were teaching you might not fit you anymore?
Well, that's kind of a crazy story. Um, when I was 19, I actually converted to Judaism because I was like, what better way to get closer to Jesus than to follow all the 613 rules that he
Yeah.
followed? I thought that would be the way. So I converted to Judaism, practiced Judaism for some years. And then it just seemed like the same angry God that I would never be good enough for. And so when I was 24, after I lost my two sons, um, I went on a journey, a spiritual journey, because I was like, the way the God of the Bible is portrayed, I want nothing to do with it. That's not
Yeah.
love. Like, I saw Jesus as this loving, caring, and then I saw the God that he followed as being horrible. And I couldn't, it took me from the age of 24 to now I'm 43.
Yeah.
And I'm just now to a place where I'm at peace.
And you're okay to let go of Jesus.
Yeah, like the love, um, I will always strive to love others as
Yeah.
myself because I've learned to love myself also in this process, you know. And the thing is, I find that kind of love everywhere I look.
Yes.
I've looked into every religion you could imagine. I've looked into atheism. I've even looked into Satanism. I've looked at
Yeah.
all of it, and I find love everywhere except the
Everywhere.
church.
Yes. Yes.
And that's so heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And,
Because the main place that you're supposed to find love, or how we're taught that love was unconditional, was within the four walls of that church house. You know, that nobody was going to love you more than Jesus. Nobody was going to love you more than the people in that church. Nobody would do more for you than those individuals that were there. And I found once I left, Courtney and Heather, that um, I was taught love was so conditional. It came with a price tag. It came with
Right.
transactions. It came with things that I had to do to prove that I was worth being loved.
yeah. And that's exactly what they offer. They offer conditional love because, you have to check off these certain boxes and fulfill these certain roles. And if you're not demure and you're not quiet and you
Mm,
don't have your head down and your voice low, then you're not accepted by these people in this community. And I was a lot like you because I didn't know anything about a whole lot of other faiths or other paths that people take. And, I was one of those people that would always demonize Satanists because they're devil worshippers. But then when I, deconstructed and I actually looked into Satanism, what their tenets are, what they believe, it's like, hell, they believe the same things that Christians should be believing, for goodness sakes. They're
right.
not out here worshiping the devil. They're providing period products to their communities and food for hungry people. And this is all the stuff that the church should be doing. But the Satanists are having to do it instead because the church isn't. And those things are
Exactly.
really eye opening, especially when you were raised to believe that all those places were evil. And when you find out that they're actually out here doing good, that kind of cracks the facade that the church has put on for so long about how evil all these other places are, while they're ignoring the evil that sits in their own pews every Sunday. So,
Now, can I circle back, Courtney, when you said you uh did Judaism, how do you say it?
I converted.
You converted. Was that for a marriage? Was that just because of your own doing, that that's what you wanted to do?
It was something that my mom and I kind of got into together.
Okay.
I was pregnant with it was my second pregnancy, first birth. But um I really I wanted to be the best I could be. And when my mom was finding that getting into the Jewish roots of Jesus was giving her fullness in life, I was like, I want that too. And I want my child to have the fullness in life that I've never had.
yeah.
So it just really kind of drove me into that. And I'm married an Israeli. And
Yeah.
then when he took my sons, I started my deconstructive journey.
Okay. Well, that's cool. So, how has your understanding of your value changed since leaving those spaces?
It's changed a lot because it's crazy because that kind of radical love I didn't find until after I left the church. Like I can
Same.
truly love people. It's not loving
Yeah.
souls, it's loving humans.
Yes.
And that's That's the type of radical love we need.
Yeah. The LGBTQIA plus community has been the community that has shown up for me and shown me more love than I ever knew existed. Okay. And I always tell people I spent 36 years in religious spaces and never experienced that level of love or acceptance or understanding for who I am as a person and like my ADHD and the quirks that go along with that. Right. And my daughter and I, we had actually went to Pride for the first time with some people that we had met on the internet. He was actually one of them that we had met that weekend. And it was the first time I'd ever been around a whole bunch of gay people. And that whole weekend for me was literally a spiritual experience because I experienced so much love and acceptance in that one weekend than I had in 36 years in religious spaces. And that weekend stays with me because it's not just that they loved me, it's that they show up and support. And if I know I'm going through an issue, I can talk to them about that. Or even when we were there in their presence, my daughter she's autistic. So she was having a bit of a meltdown at the end of the night because she was overwhelmed. It had been a long day. And I was able to just look at my friends and be like, hey, I got to take her back to the room. She's had too much. She's done. And they were totally okay with that and completely understanding. But I never had that level of understanding with people in the church. They would just be like, oh, she just needs to suck it up and endure it. I don't understand why you're complaining all the time. And that was the
You
kind of
didn't raise
response
her
that we
right.
get. Yeah. And it's really cool to be in community with people that really get it
Yes.
and really do know how to show up. But when you don't know how to love yourself, and you don't know how to love yourself when you're in these religious spaces because you're taught not to, you can't show up in a healthy way for you or other people that are in community with you. So
Hmm.
deconstruction is the key to unlocking that. So I am so proud of you for being on this journey and, finding your truth, but not just that, finding true healing and love for yourself.
Thank you so
Exactly.
much.
Were there parts of you that you felt easier to show than other parts of you when you were in religious spaces?
Well, I've always been, and I know you can relate to this. I've always been a very loud in the way I look, in the way. So I was always in trouble. I was always in trouble. It was always a dress code violation. It was always something that came out of my mouth because I asked too many questions. And it was, I never thought what you wore should matter. It's just clothing. It's
Mhm.
Yes.
like, it's your heart. Like,
Yeah.
what book are y'all reading? Because Jesus said it's the heart that we should,
Yes.
like we aren't supposed to be walking around judging each other. What does it matter what I'm wearing? Like, so I've
Exactly.
always been kind of rebellious, I guess you could say, when it came to my dress code. Because I was like, I am going to do me. And that was
Mhm.
the one part that I felt like, even though it was heavily frowned upon all the time, it was something that I always felt that it was worth fighting for. Authenticity was
Yeah.
always, I fought it
Yeah.
because I guess just deep down inside, I felt like if Jesus truly loved people the way he said he did, he would love me no matter what I'm wearing today.
Yes, exactly. How I show up and present myself in the world is not going to change how that man feels about me.
Right.
Right. It's
Like you guys,
literally the heart
right,
that matters.
right.
And that's what they'd say, but that's, we should be practicing what we preach, y'all.
You're right.
You know?
And get those pastels on. If you have anything that's a loud color and it's not baby pink, baby blue, baby purple, baby lavender, has flowers on it somewhere and a little bit of lace, you know you're going straight
Yeah.
to hell.
Yeah,
Walk into
this
church in a black dress. Makeup
this
was
is
not
not
allowed.
yeah, I have had to subdue my color quite a bit over the years, and I always found a way.
The older I get, the louder it is.
It is. It is. So, Courtney, looking back, can you remember early hints that something inside you was shifting?
When I was 11, I remember the exact moment it happened. I It was like I just woke up one morning and saw hypocrisy.
And once you see it, you can't unsee
You
it.
can't unsee it. Yeah.
Yeah. There is no going back from that because the wool is off your eyes
Mhm.
at that point. And then you start analyzing everything else around you because the wool is gone.
And if it's not externally, it's this battle internally. It's
Yep.
when you start being able to put those questions together that you can't say out loud, but you still ask them within yourself. You're like, well, why is brother so and so getting away with that? And how come sister so and so was able to say those things, but sister so and so got called out for it? I'm not quite sure what's going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was everywhere. I was seeing it everywhere. And I started speaking out about it. Because, in my mind, I was like, well, Jesus started teaching the rabbis when he was
Yep.
12. I'm 11. It's not that big. So I started speaking out and I'm like, but this is what the book says. And so of course, y'all remember Spirit of Rebellion?
Yes. That's
That was
Courtney. That's Courtney.
every
She says,
adult.
I am the spirit.
Yeah, every adult in my life was trying to cast out the spirit of rebellion from me. And I'm like, what book are y'all reading?
Right,
You
right.
know?
Because God hates a defiant spirit,
Yes, he does. You got to have a broken and contrite spirit,
Contrite
Courtney.
spirit.
Right?
Come on, Courtney. And God forbid if they found out you actually love snakes.
Right.
They'll have you up on the stage handling them.
Oh my goodness. Y'all are gonna love this story. One time there was a bat. I worked in the nursery. I was like, I want to say 16 at the time, and I was one of the nursery workers. And there was a bat in the nursery. So I picked him up and took him outside. It was suddenly I was full of the devil.
Oh no.
The whole church was uproarious because I touched a bat. So I was evil. And that was my thought. I was like, ooh, they don't need to know about all the times I caught snakes with the boys. Like they don't need to know about that. That's not going to end well for me. It was a
That's
bat, y'all.
that's too much for them to handle.
And we're talking about like snakes that crawl on the ground, just for the record.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Yes, I do. I have 5 currently. I used to breed. So yeah, I'm a huge snake lover and that was always the problem.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, what helped you feel curious or brave enough to explore those questions?
I have always been a person that I don't take things at face value. I have to know more. I have to like I'm too inquisitive. I've just
Yeah.
always it's and the more I learn, the more I need to learn. Cause like at one point in my childhood, I always wanted to be a missionary's wife. Now, you heard me, not a missionary, a missionary's
Missionary's
wife.
wife. Yes.
So yeah. Um, I at one point, because I'm a linguist at heart, I learn languages. It's my thing. I wanted to be a Wycliffe Bible translator.
Oh, cool.
And then I learned about a month ago there are deep ties in colonialism. And I was
Oh, wow.
like, really? Like it runs so deep. The corruption runs so deep.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, every time I learn more about the damage that the church has done around the world, the more I get heartbroken all over again because it, it was supposed to be about love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely churches and missionaries were used to go in first and make it to where the government can come over and take over. It was like, let's send the missionaries in, let's convert them, let's do this. And this is just layman talking, right? And then you find government coming over and kind of swooping in and becoming, colonizing these countries and these cultures. And it's like, why?
Yep.
Why do you have to
Yeah.
bring God first? Why can't you just let them be who they are? It's like, and just love them. I mean,
Yep.
I agree.
So, what felt the hardest about allowing your beliefs to change?
The fear. I was shaking in
Yes.
my boots. I tried so hard to just keep believing and keep trusting and the harder I tried, the more cracks I was seeing in the system. And I just, the moment that I had to just give up on everything and start from scratch, I felt like literally like, you know, the the potter, we're the clay in the potter's hand. And
Yeah.
it's like I had this
Yeah.
vision of myself just being dropped and shattered into like this beautiful piece of clay that had been molded for so many years, just shattered.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I guess I got to make a mosaic out of this. Let's go. You know?
Kind of sit there for so long. I just remember sitting there and looking at all the broken pieces and was like, I'm never going to be able to be what I was before.
Yeah.
But I realize now that I was never meant to be what I was before.
Yeah.
I'm meant to be who I am today. And even if it's with all those broken pieces, that's much more of an authentic me than as a perfect pot sitting on a shelf somewhere collecting dust.
Yep.
Ooh, we go through some stuff, don't we? What
Yeah.
what what kind of support made that transition easier and more bearable for you whenever you did this?
I didn't have any.
Just like me and T. You were raw dogging it.
Yeah. No, it cost me everything.
Yeah, it
Hmm.
did us too. And when have said this before on the show, but when we deconstructed, there wasn't all these deconstruction communities. There wasn't all these resources. I didn't even know that people did this and even talked
Right.
about it, right? Because I was raised that church is the only thing. It's the
Hmm.
only thing for life. And my entire life had been surrounded by that. So, it wasn't until COVID that I started finding people that were
Yep.
deconstructing, just like me. And I had already been deconstructing for several years on my own. So finding people was just such a breath of fresh air because it was finally, I have somebody that understands what the heck I'm talking about, what it is that I've experienced. And they're not going to just look at me like I'm absolutely crazy when I'm talking about this stuff,
Hmm.
because when you talk to people that haven't experienced it, they think you're nuts. They deny
Hmm.
what it is that you've went through, and that's really frustrating.
Hmm. I know when I moved here, moved my three kids here and stuff, right, and escaped the cult that I was raised in. You can't tell people who don't know you that.
Yeah.
You can't be honest. And so people would ask me, "Oh, why did you come to Michigan?" I was like, "Well, I came up here to family." And they're like, "Well," I'm like, "I'm divorced." "Well, what about your mom and dad?" And do you know I used to tell them that my parents had passed away and I was an only child.
Yeah.
That is what I told people for like 15 years of my deconstructing life. Nobody knew I had family.
Wow.
I just kept going. And I was like, well, if I'm going to go to hell for leaving the church, what is a lie?
Yeah.
What's one more lie? I mean, because you can't like look at people and say, I was raised in church and I had to escape a cult and I had to move here with three kids and people look at you like you're batshit crazy,
Yep. Yep.
you know?
So,
Yeah.
did any worries or fears linger even after your perspective shifted?
Yeah, for a while, it would be like, well, what if I'm wrong? And then
Yeah.
I would try to go back. I would try to go back into it. And I tried for quite some time. I like re entered the church a couple of times. And then within months, I'm like, I can't do
Can't do
this.
it.
I have
Yep.
the same feeling I had. And I kept trying. Um, Meanwhile, I had my daughters. I had two daughters. Still no contact with my sons by this point. And with them, even though I was scared I was wrong, I raised my girls to make their own choice.
I love
I was
that.
like, I'm on this religious journey. I'm going to try everything.
Yeah.
And I did. And I'm like, y'all are welcome to come with me on this journey, or you're welcome to omit yourself. You
Yeah.
know, I'm going to leave it up to you. Um, because I never wanted, like, I realized I was brainwashed.
Yes.
And like
Mhm. Yes.
the longer I go deconstructed and the longer I go sober, the more clarity I'm having
Yeah.
on how every decision I've ever made in my life has been the direct result of my brainwashing.
Of
And
the
it's just,
indoctrination. Yep.
it's
And
crazy.
and we're not talking small decisions here. We're talking major life decisions that we are making through the lens of indoctrination. And I've told
Hmm.
the story before, but there is a young girl that is, on TikTok that makes videos that was prophesied to about marrying this man that was in church with her. And she married him based upon that prophecy. And he turned out to be a horribly abusive man to be married to. But she felt like she was honoring God by marrying that man, that this was the man that God had for her. And it
Hmm.
ended up destroying her life being married to that man. Now she's better now. She's divorced and she's healing. But, she wouldn't even have endured that trauma of being in that relationship with him if she hadn't trusted God and believed the men of God that were speaking into her life. So, this is the things that prophecies and the things that are indoctrinated into us can cause us to make really serious life decisions before we're even ready to make those decisions. Hell, I was a parent for the first time at 20 years old. I was a
Hmm.
child still at 20 years old. So, I love having these conversations because we
Hmm.
shine the light on the various different ways that it affects our life and how it impacts our decision making and the things that we do and how we show up in the world. So,
Yeah.
what has for you the process of getting to know yourself outside of that system been like?
It started, I think, with like, what are my core values? Like, what are the things? And it's almost like I had to look back at myself and the things that I fought for in the church and
Yeah.
the things I fought for at school and the things that like could nobody tell me, you know, like
Hmm.
for me racism is the absolute biggest. Like if I see it, I just lose my shit. And I've been like that since I was very, very tiny. And, growing up in the holler in Kentucky, you see a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I fought it hard and I've always fought it. Um, and, the majority of my close relationships are with people of color. Um, and I fight for them.
Yeah.
And so I had to look at things like that. Like, what are my core values that nobody else, take every doctrine and every other human out of the equation? What do I stand for? And I think that's where it started because I always knew my exterior because I was always that rebellious girl.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But my interior, I had no clue who that was.
Hmm. And it's like the two doesn't ever match because I know when I started like real trauma therapy, one of the first questions she asked me was, how did I feel? And I'm like, I feel like my heart and my mind don't connect. Like what I feel and then what I think are not the same thing. I'm always at a constant battle. And it's so funny that like over time I've realized that it wasn't that they were different. It was that the feeling, right? The heart part of me was that indoctrination and that discernment and that feeling that you're supposed to feel when you're in church and stuff. And the reason why my mind didn't do it because my mind would critically think that, and it was like a constant battle. And it was like I wouldn't my feelings would override my critical thinking skills, and it wouldn't let me articulate how I felt or what I was thinking because they were at constant battle with themselves.
Yeah.
And it's only been maybe in the last month or so that I've actually come to that resolution and been like, wow, I've always been raised and driven by feeling and not by what I think is real. What
Yeah.
is real to me? So just like you, Courtney, it's like I had to learn what is my foundation? What core values do I put my critical thinking in? What do I choose for my life? Not what I believe. What do I choose? And what are those choices that fit me as a woman today?
And that's the biggest thing is you choosing. Because when we come out of these high control spaces, we have everything dictated, formatted for us. We have a plan for our life, right? Especially as women. We're supposed to be married. We're supposed to have all these kids in the house. We're supposed to be taking care of the home, taking care of our man. Like that's our purpose, right? So for
Mhm.
us to have the freedom to actually choose for ourselves what it is that we want to believe in, what we want to put our hope in, and how it is that we show up in the world is such a powerful thing when you've come out of an environment where all of that was already predetermined and dictated for you.
Mhm. Courtney, what helped you build trust in your own judgment?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Mm. Can I just note those nails are fucking gorgeous? I'm sorry, I
Thank
have to
you.
say that.
They are, they're amazing.
Just like, but go ahead.
My children, now that my daughters are both mothers themselves, and we have such a close relationship. Like my daughters are my best friends. And it was like, no, I wasn't perfect. I made so many mistakes. Half the time, the girls would ask me for advice, and I'd be like, well, I can tell you what not to do, you know? But because of that realness,
Yes.
that they call me every single day.
I love
My,
that.
they call me. And that was like so eye opening to me, like just recently, that I'm not I'm not as bad as I thought I was all those years. Like
Yeah.
it's that love that was always so important to me, I gave that. And it was
Yes.
a humble kind of love because I make all the mistakes. But I mean, I'm just now sober. My second grandbaby
Yeah.
is part of why I got sober. So it's like the girls had to see me not okay. And we
Yeah.
had very candid conversations about it. And it's my realness. So I guess it's not so much that I can trust my judgment, because sometimes I can't. I make a lot of mistakes. But what I can trust is my intentions are always pure.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that you still have value even if you make mistakes. Your
Yeah.
value does not change no matter how badly you screw up. And I think that's a big thing that I had to take away, is that even on the days when I can't get out of bed, I still have the same value as the days that I can go conquer the world you
Mhm.
know, because we're not taught that. A lot of those spaces teach us that our value is based on what it is that we can produce, and what it is that we can do for the kingdom, whatever.
Mhm.
But in all of that, we're negating what it is that we need for ourselves and what we should be doing for ourselves instead. So, are there parts of your earlier life or faith that you still carry with you with appreciation today?
Yeah, actually, if I had to go back and do it all again, I still would have had kids young. I love being a young
Yes.
nana. When my babies come visit, I can get on the floor with them because I'm a nana. I've got two
Yep.
grandbabies at 43. I would still like the thing that I had to come full circle about is that I actually did want that life with the
Yeah.
babies and the husband. Like, you know, the person I'm with now, like, is my soulmate.
Yeah.
And he works on the farm and I get to take care of him, and I'm genuinely happy
I
about
love
that.
that.
But the difference now is that I have the choice
Yes.
to do that. It wasn't a choice for me, but now it is a
Yeah.
choice for me, and I'm very happy in my choice. And that's kind of the big, like, I didn't expect to be so happy doing traditional things after all of that.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. And what felt important to put aside? What were those things that you were like, I'm not carrying this one with me?
Rules.
Rose.
Yep.
No, really. I mean,
Yes, I know.
even Jesus himself. So there's only two. Love God, love people. That's it.
Yes.
There's only two.
Yeah.
Even Jesus said that. So I kind of like went that route with it. Like, like just love people. That's it. Like there's no need for all the silly little thou shalt and thou shalt nots. If you love other people, the rest will fall into place.
Absolutely. And we
So
don't need to micromanage other people. Like literally the Bible says that we are to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. Now, if I'm to believe that to be true, then why am I worried about my neighbor's salvation? That's for them to work out between them and God. It ain't my business, you know? And I think that, so much of church is about behavior control, behavior modification. And when we step outside of those boxes, well, that's when they want to try and reel us back in and get us back in that box because we're not fitting that mold. But you don't have genuine freedom and authenticity in those spaces like that.
Hmm.
So, what helps you to feel safe in relationships now?
honesty, even when it hurts.
Yes.
Um, like that's the thing I appreciate about my closest relationships is we're real with each other. And
Hmm.
it's not always pretty,
No.
Mm-mm.
but when you know where you stand and you can trust the other person to tell you how they're feeling, like
Yeah.
that's so beautiful. Yeah, I just honesty is the biggest.
And honesty is another thing that you don't get a lot in religious spaces. You get a lot of spiritual bypassing, covering things up. We're not
Hmm.
really going to talk about that because people are taught not to talk about their struggles, right? And even when I can remember even being brave enough to talk about my struggles, but then when I did, I was chastised for it. Like
Hmm.
I was being attacked by the enemy. And it's like, wow, you're trying to shame me for going through this difficult situation when I had nothing to do with this in the first place. Like, and that doesn't aid you in your growth or your healing at all,
Hmm.
as it stunts you. Like, it really does.
Exactly. Where do you notice growth or relief compared to where you started?
Peace. I had no peace when I
Mm.
started. I had whatever the opposite of peace is. That's what I had when I started. And the longer I'm on this journey of authenticity and learning how to truly love others, um, the more peace I have in my life and just with myself,
Yeah.
inner peace.
So, what tends to help you when old feelings may start to resurface? Do you have tools that you use? Do you meditate? Do you take some time by yourself? What do you like to do?
Well, I have some mental illnesses that contribute to that with the spiraling thoughts in my head and where the old thoughts will dredge themselves up. And what I like to do when it's a healthy day, I have some physical health problems as well, but on the healthier days, I work out. That is, it'll just get my body going.
Yeah,
I do yoga, I do all sorts of stuff like that. When it's a day where I can't really do so much physically, that's when I meditate. And I love to learn anything about any culture ever.
I
I'll
love that.
just go down rabbit holes learning about people. And so those are the ways that I kind of keep those thoughts at bay so I can live in this space.
Yes.
Hmm. Okay. How do you understand your life or purpose these days?
My purpose is it's a little tricky because I still feel like if I'm not being productive, just a waste of oxygen. I still struggle with that a lot. So just like existing is hard. So I feel like if I can take care of others and love on others, that gives me purpose. But as far as just existing in my own bubble, I'm really struggling to find a sense of purpose without taking care of other people.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yes.
it does. I have been a caretaker nearly my entire life, so I wouldn't know what it would be to not be one at this point. Like, I wouldn't. I wouldn't know what to do with myself because it's just been embedded into who I am. So I can completely relate to that.
And the boundaries too. It's like when you feel like you're caring for too many other things and people, and that you realize that you're leaving the care for yourself out. I've found that it has been a struggle over the last year to put myself first and say no. Say I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. This is what I had planned and this is what I'm going to do. And then not feel guilty about doing what it was that I was going to do. And I think that's a constant struggle with a lot of women who were raised in indoctrinated spaces when they leave, that their purpose in life was always to give, 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 and never be selfish and say, I deserve this. I'm going to do this for me.
Yeah, it feels very uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
when I
So
like,
uncomfortable.
if I have a day where I'm like doing my nails and my makeup first before I do the laundry, it feels very uncomfortable putting
Yeah.
myself first before I take care of someone else. But I'm working on it
Yeah.
because honestly, my daughters need to see how that's done. I was terrible at it when they were kids.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And they, if they take that time for themselves, they'll be happier as mothers.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's one thing that church doesn't teach us is how to show up for ourselves. So we have to learn that for ourselves. And if we do have kids, then we have to teach them. Like you said, they don't know how to show up for themselves if we don't know how to show up for ourselves. So we have to pass those lessons along because they're critical to growth and development, and our healing.
And it's hard to pass that along when you don't know the steps to take to do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's different when it's like, okay, this is how you fold clothes. This is how you do laundry. You separate the whites, you separate the blacks. There's things that we're taught that we know there's a rule and there's a thought process too. And you've been taught and you've got those things, right? But it's those abstract things like who would ever think I'm somebody who
Yeah.
can go do my nails by myself and enjoy myself, or go out to eat alone and just take a break, or go to yoga class, which I love, or garden when, there's like 15 other million things that have to be done that day. And then how do I teach that to my daughter? Like, you're important. Go get your nails done when there's no money to do it, but that somehow or another she needs to find that $40 to take the time to do it for herself,
Yeah.
because it's something that she needs to be able to see physically, that she's taking care of her. And when we don't know how to do it, how do we teach others that they're important when we don't feel we are important?
Exactly. And it's literally impossible to be able to teach that if you don't know it
Right.
yourself. It's always going to be a halfway done effort at that point because you're not equipped with what you need to
Mm-hmm.
be able to pass along what you need to pass along.
Right.
So, Courtney, what do you wish people better understood about leaving a belief system?
Oh, that one's a good one. Just like anything hard, it's so worth it. Like, just even if they end up going back, they'll go back with refreshed eyes,
Yeah.
you know? Like, you need in any situation you're in, you need to be able to step back from it and look at it from the outside to see the truth of what's really there.
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like that with any situation. And I would say the same could be said of religion. You need to take a step back from it, look at it and you'll see the full picture if you step back. And that's what I would
True.
recommend, even to someone firmly grasped in their faith. Listen to what other people are saying.
Listen
You
to
know, listen,
survivors, like for real. Listen to
yeah,
survivors.
yes.
Yeah. What has freedom come to mean to you personally?
Going back to the peace, I'm whole just the way I am.
Yeah.
And that freedom to I can love everyone. And not in a love the sinner, hate the sin. I hate that.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you're gonna love someone, you're gonna love them because we all have positive and negative.
Yep.
Hmm.
So that's probably the my favorite part of the freedom is I can truly and genuinely love my trans friend. No
Yeah.
judgment, no, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
Hmm.
I can truly love someone of a different faith
Hmm.
or someone who's an atheist or someone who, you know, seeing any
Hmm.
difference,
Yeah.
you know, we can love everyone
Right.
exactly the way they are, the way we were supposed to love them. And that's where the freedom is I feel like I'm free to actually love people instead of feeling forced to judge them and put them in boxes.
Yes.
Gosh,
Yes.
that's so true.
If you had a piece of advice or a word of wisdom for somebody who's just now starting their deconstruction journey, what would you want to say to them?
I would say study what other people have to say about your faith. Get as many outside opinions about your faith as possible, because actions speak louder than words.
Yes. Yes.
So the people on the outside of your bubble will see the actions. And that's where, you know, listen to them, listen to their perspective. And
Yeah.
then from there you can go back and reread it with fresh eyes, re-examine what you believe with fresh eyes. So yeah, I would say first talk to people who think differently from you.
Ooh, this has been good, Courtney. I have to just say here, I've seen you from the beginning, and this just makes my heart overwhelmed. I'm so fucking proud of you. You're fucking amazing. I mean, I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched you on your journey and I've supported you. And I've heard you say, I would like to talk, but I'm not sure. And then when you came back a couple weeks ago and you're like, I'm ready. And I was like, let's do this before she says no, right? But like when I'm sitting here listening to you, just admiring the strength and the growth that I've seen over just the couple years. You have been such an inspiration, and I'm truly, truly glad and happy to know that you're part of my journey.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what to say. I'm like overwhelmed at the moment because this has been fucking amazing. Um, it's like I watched somebody from like, you know, when you weren't even like really able to put your feelings together and
You were
just
the
in the beginning of
caterpillar
your
and now you're a butterfly.
you're just in the beginning of your sobriety, right? And you would just reach out for support or whatever. And I would be like, I don't even know if I said things that would help inspire you or anything, but I know that watching your growth inspired me each step of the
Yeah.
way. And I was like, damn, this girl is doing it. Having said that, what would you like to make sure we honor before we end today?
Ooh. Oh, the very last question, I'm like, I don't know.
There's one more.
If we can honor, I've made friends. I'm very, very grateful. I've met you and I've met people around the world
Yeah.
through these social media apps. And um, I would like to honor my friends in areas of the world that are seeing a lot of tragedy.
Yeah.
And fortunately, the friends I have are currently safe, all of them. But that may not always be the case. So I would just like to honor my beautiful friends
That's
on the other
awesome.
side of the world.
And it's beautiful. We love that so much. So you guys, we appreciate you guys being here with us again this week and listening to us yammer on about religious deconstruction once again. If you liked this show, please hit that subscribe button. We would love to have you guys back here with us again next week when we engage in another one of these conversations. We are out here healing loudly together, one story at a time.
And Courtney, what would you like to say to be our final send off? You know, we love you. You know, Heather loves you, and you
Yes.
know, I love you bunches.
We love you
So,
so much. And we are so grateful that you sat down with us today. Like T said, you have been such an inspiration to both of us, even on days when you probably thought that I'm just here and I'm just making it through. You inspired us because if you could make it through, we can too.
so the floor is yours. Take us away.
No, y'all have inspired me. Like so much of my growth has come from watching y'all and everything you've accomplished in the past 2 years has just been so beautiful, and y'all inspire me. So to think that I inspire y'all back is really incredible. And thank you so much. And I love both of you.
We
And I
love
love
you.
everybody listening. I just mwah, love everyone.
We're leaving with love today. We love y'all
Yeah.
so stinking much. We're so grateful for y'all being here. And like I said, please catch us back here again next week for another episode of The Awakening.
Absolutely.
If I drown, would you pull me back to you?
Religion has many victims, and these are the stories of how they survived.
The preceding podcast is solely owned by the host or hosts and is distributed by Big Media LLC. Copyright 2026.